In 1933, a Sicilian family named the Baldizzis fed 4 people in a 3-room flat at 97 Orchard Street on the Lower East Side, with no steady wage at all. Adolfo, a trained carpenter from Palermo, walked the neighborhood with his toolbox looking for odd jobs. His wife, Rosaria, stretched what little came in. Their daughter, Josephine, said she grew up feeling like a little old lady. Yet they never went hungry. How Rosaria did it came down to one rule, and you'll hear it at number 1. They shopped the way survivors shop, not with coupons and apps, but with habits carried across an ocean and drilled into every daughter. We traded those habits for convenience and doubled our own grocery bills. Rosaria's rules run through everything that follows. Number 19 turned the cheapest bone in the butcher's case into a week of dinners. Number 8 is something you pour down the drain tonight. And number 1 is the rule that kept this family fed through the worst of the Great Depression. These 25 tricks weren't about being poor. They were about never being helpless. Hit that subscribe button. Let's count down 25 vanished Italian grocery tricks. Number 25. The whole chicken, used 3 times. Nothing left the kitchen with meat still on it. You bought the whole bird, roasted it Sunday, picked it clean Monday, and simmered the carcass into broth by Tuesday. In 1930, a whole chicken ran a little over $1. A family that used all of it ate for 3 days on that one purchase. Rosaria let nothing go to the bin, the way her mother in Palermo never had. The broth alone became a soup that fed the children again. Not 1 meal, 3. Number 24. The cut the butcher couldn't sell. The tough cuts were the cheapest and cooked slow, the best. You bought the shoulder, the shank, the oxtail, meat that needed hours, not dollars. In the 1930s, a chuck roast sold for about 15 cents a pound against far more for a steak, and it fed twice as many. The Sunday gravy on Orchard Street simmered half a day on a cut nobody else wanted. Southern Italy had taught these families that time makes cheap meat tender, not the expensive cut, the patient one. Number 23. Pasta made by hand, not bought. Flour and eggs cost pennies. A box cost real money. You made the dough on a board, rolled it thin, and cut it by hand while the children watched. A few cents of flour fed the whole table. In Sicilian homes, the girls learned the feel of the dough before they could read. The kitchen table wore a permanent dusting of flour, and the smell of it never fully left the room. Every family on the block did the same. Not a product, a skill. Number 22. The garden on the fire escape. No yard did not mean no garden. Basil, tomatoes, and peppers grew in old cans and window boxes off the fire escape. A nickel packet of seeds became a whole summer of flavor. Josephine remembered her mother growing flowers at that tenement window. Other Italian families grew supper there. In the old country, everyone grew food, and the tenement simply moved it up 5 floors. Not decoration, groceries. Number 21. Stale bread was never garbage. Yesterday's loaf became today's meal. Hardened bread turned into panzanella, into ribollita, into breadcrumbs, into papa al pomodoro. Southern Italy had 100 dishes built on dried bread. The whole tradition of cucina povera runs on it. A stale loaf soaked soft with water and tomato fed the family a second time for almost nothing. Rosaria kept a cloth bag of drying bread near the stove. Not waste. Dinner. Number 20. By the season, by the case. When tomatoes were cheap in late summer, you bought a bushel, not a pound. You canned it all in one hot day and ate it all winter. A crate of August tomatoes cost what a few winter pounds would. Italian women canned together, jars lined up like soldiers across the table, sauce enough to last till spring. The whole block put up its harvest at once. Not a pound, a season. Number 19, the soup bone that fed a week. The cheapest thing in the butcher's case fed the family longest. A soup bone with a little marrow, a handful of dried beans, and water became a pot that stretched for days. Beans ran about 10 cents a pound, and a pound went a long way. Escarole and beans over stale bread, pasta e fagioli in a steaming pot was depression food that Italian families fed to the whole block. Southern Italy had lived on beans for centuries, not scraps. Strategy. Number 18, dried and hung for winter. Peppers, tomatoes, and herbs were strung up and dried, not bought fresh in the cold months. You hung the summer harvest from the ceiling and pulled it down all winter. Preserving cost nothing but string and patience. A Calabrian kitchen ceiling was hung with drying peppers, dark red against the plaster, and the herbs kept their flavor for months. Nothing fresh in July was ever wasted. Not a spice rack, a ceiling. Here is what got taken from women like Rosaria Baldizzis, and it was more than recipes. She was the purchasing agent, the cook, the preserver, and the accountant of the household, running all of it while her husband hunted odd jobs street to street. When she took a factory job lining coats and it threatened the small relief the family relied on, she gave the job up rather than lose the balance she had built. That is not the behavior of a helpless woman. That is a chief financial officer protecting her books. Then the decades renamed all of it. Convenience food arrived and told her granddaughters this work was beneath them, that a modern woman opens a jar instead of filling one. But the jar you buy is only a bill. The jar you fill is a skill, and the skill still cuts a grocery bill in half. Number 17, the whole fish, head and all. You bought the fish whole and cheap and used every part. The flesh fed the table, the head and bones made the broth. A whole fish cost far less than fillets and fed twice as many. Friday fish stew on the Lower East Side started with heads the fishmonger nearly gave away. Coastal Italy wasted no part of the catch, ever. Not the fillet, the whole thing. Number 16, beans first, meat second. Meat flavored the pot, beans filled it. A knuckle of pork made a whole pot of beans taste like a feast. A pound of dried beans cost pennies and stretched a scrap of meat across a family of 4. Pasta e fagioli steamed the tenement windows on winter nights. The entire south of Italy ate this way for generations. Not meat with beans, beans with the memory of meat.
Before we go on, I made something special for you. Guides for people like us who still believe the old ways mattered. They're the forgotten money habits our grandparents lived by, tricks that could save you thousands a year. But this knowledge is disappearing, and once it's gone for good. I've put together 2 books for you plus a free bonus. Imagine how much you could save over the next year by starting today. Scan the QR code on screen now or click the link below. I'll wait.
Number 15, shop the market at closing. The best prices came at the end of the day. You went as the push carts packed up when peddlers sold soft produce cheap rather than haul it home. A basket of bruised fruit went for a few cents at dusk. Every immigrant wife on the Lower East Side knew the closing hour on Hester Street. The vendor wanted an empty cart more than a full one, not the morning price, the last one. Number 14, trade over the fence. What you had extra, you swapped for what you lacked. Your tomatoes for a neighbor's eggs, your bread for another's share of something. No money changed hands, and both tables were fuller. The Baldizzis' neighbors leaned on each other constantly. Josephine recalled her father never once said no when asked for help. The tenement courtyard ran on barter, not a store, a neighborhood. Number 13, save every bit of fat. Nothing greasy was thrown away. Pork fat and drippings were rendered into strutto and saved to cook with for months. A crock of saved fat replaced store lard entirely. It sat by the stove and fried nearly everything the family ate. The old country wasted no fat from any animal, not garbage, grease worth its weight. Number 12, the scrap pot. Onion ends, carrot tops, celery leaves, and hard cheese rinds went into a bag in the icebox, then into a pot of stock. A minestrone built on scraps cost almost nothing and anchored the whole week. The Parmesan rind that most people throw out melted flavor into the pot. Peasant kitchens threw nothing green away, not scraps. Soup. Number 11. Buy the wheel, not the wedge. Cheese and cured meat cost far less bought whole. You bought the whole wheel of pecorino and the whole salami and cut them yourself over months. A wedge cost nearly double per pound what the wheel did. A cellar with a hanging salami and a wheel of cheese fed a family half a year. Neighbors would split a wheel 4 ways to get the price down, not the slice. The wheel. Number 10. Stretch the strong things. Nothing rich was used at full strength. Coffee grounds were run twice. Strong wine was cut with water at the table. A little went a long way when a little was all there was. In lean Italian homes, dilution was simple daily arithmetic. A Sunday pot of coffee reached across a week of mornings, not less, longer. Number 9. Every jar saved. Glass was never thrown out. Jars became the vessels that held next summer's sauce and this winter's preserves. A saved jar was a canning jar you never had to buy. Shelves filled with mismatched glass, each one earned from something already eaten. The immigrant kitchen saw a jar as a tool, not trash, not garbage, infrastructure. Now go back to the winter, the work ran out. Adolfo Baldizzis had trained as a fine woodworker in Palermo, but in Depression, New York, there was no steady carpentry, only odd repair jobs he found by walking door to door with his toolbox. Some weeks, there was almost nothing, and still the family ate 3 meals a day because Rosaria had built a household that did not depend on a paycheck arriving on time. The cellar had beans. The windowsill had herbs. The bread never got thrown out. When she briefly took factory work and it put their small relief benefit at risk, she walked away from the wages to protect the balance. Every family on Orchard Street was doing some version of this arithmetic, in the dark, without complaint. These tricks were never about pinching pennies. They were the wall between a family and the fear in every other kitchen on the block. Number 8. Save the pasta water and the cooking liquid. You poured nothing flavorful down the drain. The starchy pasta water thickened and bound the sauce. The water from boiled greens became the base of tomorrow's soup. It cost nothing and it stretched the meal further. Italian cooks have built sauces on that cloudy pasta water for as long as there has been pasta. What most people drain away was, to Rosaria, half of the next dish, not waste, an ingredient. Number 7. Grow the greens that grow wild. Dandelion, chicory, escarole. The bitter greens were cheap or free and endlessly useful. You gathered or bought them by the armful and cooked them with garlic and oil into a dish that cost almost nothing. A few cents of greens fed the whole table. Southern Italians had eaten these wild greens for centuries before anyone called it health food. The land gave them for the taking, not a side dish, a staple. Number 6. Eat with the calendar, not against it. Food in season was a fraction of the off-season price. You learned the rhythm, tomatoes and zucchini in summer, greens and roots in the cold, and you ate what was cheap and plentiful that month. Shipped out-of-season produce was for people with money to waste. The Orchard Street families ate the market's low price and never the high one. Not what you craved, what was cheap that week. Number 5. Make what the store would sell you. Bread, sauce, sausage, wine, all of it came from the kitchen, not the shelf. A few cents of flour and yeast became loaves that cost a fraction of the baker's. Many Italian families even pressed their own wine each fall in the cellar. Every batch made at home was money the store never got. Their grandmothers had made everything because there was nothing to buy and no money to buy it. Not a purchase, a skill. Number 4. Portion by the person, not the plate. Nothing was cooked in excess because excess was money on the floor. You made exactly what 4 people would eat, and if there was extra, it became tomorrow's lunch, never the trash. In a tenement with an icebox and no waste to spare, leftovers were planned, not accidental. Rosaria measured the pot to the family the way her mother had. Not too much, exactly enough. Number 3. Cook once, feed everyone. The big Sunday pot fed the family, the neighbors, and whoever came to the door. Cooking in volume cost far less per plate than cooking small, and it built the web of favors that fed you back when your week ran short. The escarole and beans that fed the Baldizzis could feed half the block. This was Rosaria's way, and her mother's before her. A full pot was cheaper by the plate and richer by the neighbor. Not charity, community, and arithmetic. Number 2. Want less than you could have. Underneath every trick sat one discipline harder than all the rest, wanting less. No new thing was bought because a neighbor had bought one first. A family that does not crave cannot be sold to, and a family that cannot be sold to does not slide into debt at the grocer. The Baldizzis learned to want what they had. Josephine remembered a childhood of very little that she still spoke of with love. Not deprivation, peace. Number 1. Owe the grocer nothing. This is the whole list in a single line, and the rule Rosaria guarded above all others. You bought what you could pay for, and no more. If the money was not there this week, you ate beans and bread and waited. The tab never rolled over, the debt never grew. That is how a Sicilian carpenter with no steady wage kept 4 people fed through the worst years this country ever saw, not by earning more, but by never owing. Adolfo and Rosaria left that tenement in 1935, having survived the Depression intact, owing the corner store nothing. The trick was never a bigger paycheck. The trick was needing less than you had and never spending a dollar that was not yours. None of these tricks required a big income, a banker, or a dollar these families did not already hold. They required attention, the willingness to look at food and money plainly, without shame and without fantasy. The Italian immigrants who fed families on next to nothing understood something the modern world keeps trying to forget. Comfort is not the same as security. The ability to buy anything is worthless beside the ability to need almost nothing. Rosaria Baldizzi never got rich, but she raised 2 American children in 3 cold rooms on Orchard Street, fed them through the Great Depression, and walked out the far side owing no one. On her block, she was not the exception. She was the rule. They were never the poor ones. We are the ones who forgot how to do what they did every single day.